Welcome. So today we have a very special guest. We have Mai Nguyen, owner of Zen Den Hair in Yaletown. Welcome, Mai.
Hi, Naya.
It's so nice to have you here. And, you know, Mai has been doing my hair for over 12 years. I do not let anybody else touch my hair. She is my go-to lady for all things related to hair. And today we'll be chatting all about her rise into the hair industry and also her transition that's formulating into the diamond industry. So we have lots to chat about today.
I know, I'm super excited. Thank you for having me here, by the way.
Oh, of course. Yeah, it just made sense. I was thinking, I like to pull from my circle, and I was like, I have been going to Mai for so long. And I remember when I was 19 and I first came to you and you did my hair, and it was the low light and highlight look was in. And I would meet a girl off the street,
Yeah.
and I would be like, do you go to Amy or Mai Nguyen? And they'd be like, yeah, how'd you know? Like we would
We
form
had a
this bond.
signature. We have a signature look back then, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly. And you could just tell there'd be a girl's hair that I absolutely loved. And I'd be like, I love your hair. Where do you go? It'd be like, Mai Nguyen. And it was just like, you could always tell and you would connect with those girls. And it was like a little hair cult of like best hair ever.
Before social media, it was just like literally walking down the street, word of mouth,
Yeah.
right? Those were fun days too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So how has it been now? Because you were at in the industry at the time where there wasn't social media.
Yeah.
So really it was most of the marketing was almost word of mouth or from clients telling their friends or seeing people on the street.
Yeah.
So how was that transition?
Well, I think what uh, made us kind of shine out, us as my sister and I, um, stand out was that we had a signature look, like we had a niche that we did. And I think that's like kind of what will keep you going, is to always have a little bit of a niche.
Yeah.
But with social media coming along, I think it's great too. I think it really, gives opportunity for like all the new talents out there that probably didn't have like the biggest clientele. Now it can really showcase their work, and it's kind of like an even playing field.
Yeah.
Yeah. So and then it just challenges me to be on top of it and to keep on going and to reinvent myself and to keep up with the trend and to challenge myself. So I think it's great.
Yeah, I feel like you've reinvented yourself a few times
So many
over.
times.
You started as talk hair
No, we
or
started
tonic?
out tonic.
Tonic,
Yeah.
yes.
And then it transitioned to talk. And then it went to Mai Sakai. And then it went to, you know, uh, a big pause for a while.
Yeah.
And then I went to Zen Den Hair now.
Did you always start with your sister when you first got into hair?
Yeah, we started in 2005
Yeah.
in the same location. But yeah, so much has happened in the years, and we just roll with it, and
Yeah.
just keep on adapting.
Why all the different phases and names and kind of like rebranding or restyling? What kind of brought that
I think
about?
it's just life, it's you go through life and different things happen in your life, personal matters or just pure transition, or especially when you go through a partnership too, somebody ends up having like a different interest, or you just don't feel like maybe you're on the same kind of have same vision as where you want the business to grow, like so many different reasons. But the key thing is that like it doesn't matter, right? It doesn't matter why you need to transition. It's just that when you do, it's a good one, and it's a positive one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Have you found with each kind of transition of your hair salon, has that brought about like a new growth period or kind of marketing point or something that you didn't expect that came out of it?
All the time, because I just do what I do because I love what I do. And I'm so open minded to anything that comes my way that I just feel with that kind of a mindset, all these great opportunities always come. Like, I'm just not worried about it, because I just feel like if I tell myself all the time, if I try my best and I love what I do and I just, lead with an open heart, great things will always come. So
Yeah.
I'm just never concerned about it.
Oh,
And
yeah.
yeah, and it has happened. So I'm really fortunate.
That's an amazing mindset shift. I feel like you're scaring a lot of entrepreneurs here with the rebranding and name change that they would be like, oh my goodness, I would lose all my
No,
clients. We have a
never.
vibe. We need to stick to that
No.
culture, or we need to stick to that same thing because this is how people know us and how we are represented in the world. But you haven't noticed it in that
No,
way.
because I feel like if you just believe in yourself,
Mm,
then that's all that matters.
yeah.
The brand is you. The brand is like your values, right?
Mm.
So it doesn't matter. You can change multiple times, but you believe in yourself, you have a focus, you got a vision, you got a goal, you got a passion, everything will work out.
Yeah, that's a great mindset. Let's talk about how you got into the hair industry.
Yeah.
So, what got you into hair in the first place, or how did you decide I'm going to hair school, or did you even go to hair school?
I did go to hair
Yeah.
school. Well, I have three older sisters, and we grew up very strict. Like my mom was like, my older sisters are quite a bit older than me, so they're in their teenage years. And back then, it was like crimpers were in, and like big hair was in, and so yeah, my mom wouldn't allow us to have any hairspray, crimpers, hot tools, none of that stuff.
Oh,
So what did they do? They'd use my tiny little hands to do like these tiny little braids on them. So I became their personal hairdresser since I was like 4 or 5 years old.
yeah.
And that just kind of continued on into like school. Like my teacher sometimes would be like sneaking their head in and say, can I borrow Mai for a minute? And like take me out of class and get me to like do their hair. It was kind of funny. And I always look forward to it because I'm like, yeah, I don't get to be in class, right?
Yeah.
And then every time when we had like school events, like prom or drama classes or whatever, everybody always asked me like, can you do our hair for this event? Blah, blah, blah. So
Yeah.
I just always did it. And I never thought, because it's so second nature to me, I never thought I was actually going to make a career out of it, which obviously you make a career out of it, right?
Yeah.
Anyways, and then one day my sister came to me, who's a hairstylist, and she's like, well, I'm going to go have a baby. I need to train somebody to like do my clients for me. And I'm like, you want me to like not go pursue other things because you want me to become a hairstylist so you can go on maternity leave? She's like, yeah. I'm like, okay.
Yeah.
And then I loved it. Like I went to hair school and I was like super busy in hair school with clients. And then I started my first year at Hennessy Hair Salon. And yeah, I was like pretty busy there too. And it just kind of grew from there. And it was just like, I would say, I wouldn't want to say it's easy, but it was kind of easy.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's when you have to listen to that, when things just kind of all just work out.
Mm-hmm.
And this is like the path that you're supposed to be on, when it's not complicated, you're not forcing it.
Yeah.
So yeah, hair was that for me.
Yeah. So, do you feel like it kind of chose you then?
I think so.
I feel like when a path is easy like that, and or everything just falls in line, to not say easy, but everything just falls
Yeah,
in
it just
line.
falls in line,
It's
and
kind of, yeah, it
the
chooses
path
you.
is there, is paved for me. So I'm like
Yeah.
so grateful.
I love that. That's so exciting.
Yeah.
And here you are, you're still in the hair industry.
25 years later.
Did you know after school? So, how did you start getting clients? Because this is an industry where you go and learn the service. They might not necessarily teach you business skills
Yeah.
or marketing or how to get clients. And in a world without social media, how did you build up your clientele list? Or was a lot of it from your sister's
Yeah.
clients?
So one, the malls back then were really different. It was like packed with people, right? So I had a lot of walk-ins from just people going through the malls. So that was really helpful. And then yes, my sister really encouraged it as well. Like she went on maternity leave soon after too, right? So she's like,
Mhm.
go see my sister, go see my sister. So that was a really great start to
Yeah.
me building my clientele. And then I guess just building that relationship right away. The first time the person sits in the chair with you and somehow, build a relationship with them that they're like, I really want to come back to see specifically her.
Mhm.
So yeah, I think I was able to do a good job with that.
Yeah. Did your sister come back?
Yeah, she was crazy. She got back in like a month later after giving birth. I'm like, you got me to go to hair school so you can take a month off of maternity leave? It's so funny.
She missed it. You guys are very passionate about the industry.
Yeah, I think we're a bit of workaholics.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For me, I would say with my experience with you, because I think it was my second time ever coloring my hair. I had just done brief highlights once before. And then when I saw a girl on the street that I liked her hair, I found out about you. And then I started going. I felt that as a hairstylist, you really listened. I am very, like, I have hair trauma, let's call it.
Yeah.
And from having mushroom cuts and short hair growing up, you know me, I'm very picky about like how much you cut. And I'm always like, I want this much cut.
Nothing.
I know. And I felt a lot of the times when I went to get my hair cut, they would say, yeah. And then they would just cut my hair like an inch and a half off. And I felt like my hair would never grow. Like, I know that if they say cut it because it will make it healthy and grow, but I just didn't experience that. And I just felt I always had a hard time finding a hairdresser that would listen. So when I felt like, okay, you're giving me your expertise because I don't know anything about coloring and getting my hair healthy. And I remember you said, I can't do this today, but I'm going to do this and make sure your hair is healthy so that it can grow long, and just trust me. I was like, I don't even know what I'm getting really other than something lighter. And I trusted you, and I was beyond impressed. And I really,
thank you.
so in an industry where I feel that there is a lot of variety between, you know, hairdresser to hairdresser, or hairstylist to hairstylist, or colorist to colorist, what determines, or like, what has allowed you to form in that way to kind of listen to your client? Whereas I feel a lot of people don't seem to do that. They kind of just have their way of doing things and they do it that way. And it's not as malleable or kind of open to change, or like listening to kind of what the client has to say. Did you naturally form that kind of system with clients, or did you had some experience, like negative experience with clients, that then you were like, okay, I need to find different things for different clients to satisfy all the customers?
I feel like when a client sits in my chair, it's them that's trusting in me, and I have so much respect for that. So I really want to listen to them, and I know that my clients are actually my best teachers. You know, so if I want to grow in this business and I want to grow myself, I want to listen to my clients. You know, so I think that's what resonates with me, is that. And with that, it just continues my growth and my trust with my clients, right? And the bond that we have together. Because ultimately, at the end of the day, it's like, it's what they want. And, you know, I might have my opinions, right?
Yeah.
And I will voice that, and I would give suggestions and give them kind of different options. But at the end of the day, they get to choose what they want.
Yeah, and I think it's so important because, one, the client gets to choose what they want. So if you're not providing it for them, they are going to be on the hunt until they find someone that does. But then two,
And that's okay too.
Yeah.
And that's okay too. If I'm not there and I don't feel like I would do a good job with that, and I would feel like it would affect my integrity, then I just won't go there. And I'd be like, that's okay. You know, I really hope you find somebody else. Or there's another person that I think that you would be a great fit with that person. And that's okay.
Have you ever been like a yes hairstylist where, you know, you kind of just want the client and you're like scared to say no, or that they won't come see you, like at least in your early years, that you would just be like, yep, okay.
No,
like,
absolutely not. If anything, my clients always like, why do you always say no to me? Why do you always say no? I'm like, because for all these reasons. So I actually probably say no more than I say yes. Because sometimes it's like a client really wants to push their limits, right? And it's like, well, no, you gotta care about the integrity of the hair too. So I actually say no more than I say yes.
And were you always like that? Like, where did you develop this skill?
I have no problems.
Like non-people pleasing?
I have no problems with being honest.
Yeah, that's great. I feel like I have this tendency to like want to make the person happy. So it's even when I say no, it's like, no, like it's hard because
I'll
just
say it in like the nicest way possible, but at the end of the day, I'm like, no.
Yes, totally. I feel like it comes with, at least for me, I notice it has come kind of with time and just being okay that, you know, I might not be a good fit for you, and it's totally fine.
It's totally fine.
Yeah.
And I think people really appreciate the honesty. And even though sometimes it may hurt, and that's just in life general, right? It might hurt, but at least they know that, okay, you have my best interest at heart.
Yeah.
Right?
What do you look for in your like ideal client? Like, what is your ideal client? How do you find them? And
I think they just, you know, you attract likes, you know? So I've just been fortunate enough that like people that come to see me, like we just kind of a right match for each other. Like we kind of are very similar. I really believe in that in the universe. It's like you just attract who you are.
Yeah, you do attract kind of a certain clientele. Like I can tell you right now, between me, Dr. Amy, Dr. Maya, and Nurse Bonnie, we all attract a little bit of a different clientele. And we kind of know even when they walk through the door, like who that person is likely booked with. And it is kind of a vibe.
It's weird, right?
Thing.
How it just works that way. So that's why there's a market for everybody. Like no one needs to be competitive. No one needs to like be worried, right? There's just like millions of different types of people out there, and you will just attract who you attract.
Yeah, there is as many hair salons as Starbucks and Tim Hortons, way more, right? And all the coffee shops combined,
all the restaurants combined. No, the beauty industry is huge. Nail salons, like you name it, right? There's but competition is good.
And it helps you develop your skills and find that niche where you will excel, because you can't be good at everything possible. Let's talk about your transition from working in a salon to the moment you decided to open up your own.
Well, honestly, I mean, I don't want to speak negatively about anything, but I worked at that salon that I was for 5 years, and I just felt the leadership wasn't strong. Like I felt like I just wasn't being heard. And just the leadership wasn't great. And I really wanted to stay. Like my sister and I really wanted to stay, because it's scary to be like, oh, let's go venture off. And at the time you had to sign contracts wherever you worked that you couldn't work within like 2-kilometer radius, which is quite large. So you then worry about, is your clients going to follow you and all that, right? And so but it really got pushed us to the point where we're like, you know what, we got to make the change, because we're going to be doing this for a really long time. We got to be happy at where we work at. And so that was kind of the main drive as to why we started off on our own, and then the rest is history.
Oh, amazing. Did you guys get a loan? Did you guys pool your money together to open a salon, or like family and friends? How did you even like gather yourselves to get it all done?
Timing is really important. And I feel like at that time, the opportunity was so much easier, like things weren't so expensive, and being able to start up a small business was feasible. The lease back then was like a quarter of what we pay now.
Oh my goodness.
Right? And just the cost of renovations wasn't as expensive. Just everything, the startup cost is nothing compared to what it is now. And so we were fortunate in that way, that for me now to start thinking about wanting to have a retail front store and like to do what you're doing, like how much you've expanded and grown in such a short period of time is like unheard of. Like it's so hard, and like you make it look so easy.
Oh, I don't know about that.
You make it look so easy, but I cannot even imagine like starting off right now.
It is hard. I will say, obviously, I think it's hard at any point in time, but
but back then, like 25 years ago, it was much easier.
And also, if that was the only avenue, and without, like now with social media, there are so many beauty salons and studios and all these things. So there's just a lot. And then those people have to also market on Google, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok. So there's a lot of noise. It's a
challenge. It's such a challenge.
I mean, my algorithm right now on Instagram, it's like all injectable and all skincare. And there is so much stuff out there. It's almost like too much. Like I almost don't like looking at Instagram, and I try not to unless it's just purely for work.
If it's going to be a distraction to like what you're doing, then take a break from it, you know, because that's what I find I do. It's like, okay, you know what? It's getting a little bit overwhelming. And it's just too much. It's taking away from like my focus, and then also like my values and my goals. So I'm going to take a break from it.
Yeah, you can't do it all. And trying to make every single video, photo, reel style, it's just
too much.
That's a full-time job in and of itself.
But honestly, I feel like still at the end of the day, when you're really good at what you do and your clients see it, still word of mouth is still the best form of marketing. You
And
know?
cheapest.
And most authentic way.
Yeah.
And then by the time someone gets into your shop or into your business, they already kind of like have this trust with you because they've heard you through somebody else and someone spoke really highly of you. And rather than, okay, out of an ad or something like that, they still kind of maybe come in a little bit, weary, like I'm not sure, right?
Yeah, there's a big trust component with word of mouth.
Yeah.
Because we only take the advice from people that we trust and will follow. And obviously, we've either seen their result, we've really liked it.
Exactly.
They had positive things to say, and we trust that person that has gone to your shop. So if we trust that person, then we trust their decision making on who they go to for the service.
Exactly.
Yeah. And how do you find right now in terms of word of mouth versus marketing? Like, do you spend a lot more time just kind of client relationship building? How much time do you spend on actual marketing and kind of putting time for either ads or making content and getting on all the
I think making
platforms?
content is important in the sense that I think people would like to see that you got a portfolio. Like portfolio has always been a thing, even eons ago.
Yeah.
So I think to have something to show, I think is really important. The whole marketing thing, I think with like paid advertisement and all that stuff, honestly, I don't know too much about because I haven't really gone down that road. I still, based on like the 25 years of me doing this, is still based on like my clients talking about me or referring me or, having Google reviews or Reddit reviews. Like all that has been what has still been, attracting clients for me.
Yeah. The great thing about those is if you started that, 20, 25 years ago, they're still there.
They're still there.
So
Yeah.
even when they search you, they can see reviews from forever.
Yeah.
Which is a nice way.
Yeah. But still, for me, mostly it's through people just being like, you got to go see Mai.
Yeah.
Yeah. And no, I honestly don't really know too much about this whole social media world. And I should know more. I think it works.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure it works.
It's okay. That means it's not in your values. If it was high enough in your values, you would do it. But I think you gain more having those like really good interactions and getting your clients really good results, that the word of mouth is kind of just takes a world of its own.
But I do start to feel pressures at time where I'm like, I really need to start investing in this, right?
Yeah.
And then it gets overwhelming.
Yeah.
And then I'm like, oh, it's okay. I'll just go back to what I was just doing.
It changes too much and too fast.
It changes so much.
Yeah.
I honestly feel like it's very overwhelming.
Yeah, I feel the same way. So let's go back to, okay, you and your sister, you got a spot. Is it still the same spot you have now on Pacific?
Yeah.
Okay, amazing. And I feel like that helps a lot because you're known to be in that location and you've been there for so long. So was it just you two? When did you hire your first staff member? And what position was it?
Oh my gosh, we're going so far back.
Yeah.
I think we hired right away, and she was I think she was more of like a receptionist / assistant / learning. And then, talking about the whole employment issue, or not issue, but
Difficulty,
like
challenge, roadblock.
yeah. That's a whole nother, I feel like, podcast session that we needed to.
Totally.
What was your question again?
Just, okay, so when did you hire your first?
Yeah, I think right
and
away.
And what position and okay.
Yeah.
And then was there difficulties with hiring like an employee right away, or how did you kind of combat that?
Gosh, I would say, the first 10 years, maybe even 15 years, it was a lot of learning and trial and error. It was not as smooth, like in that way at all. There was a lot of learning curves, and I've learned so much about like myself in that, how I could have been like a better leader myself, like I left a place because I didn't like the leadership there. And then venturing off on my own thinking, it'd be easy. Oh,
Yeah.
the challenges.
You're like,
of
I know
that.
what I don't like,
Yeah.
and I know in my head what I want to create, but the
Yeah.
steps on actually creating that are like a million and one steps. You kind of
No.
unfold this whole thing, and then you have to look at the labor board, the Employment Standards Act, what's
But
required.
not even that. It's just the individual themselves,
Yeah.
right? Like you have to set like a standard that is fair for everybody, but yet everybody are individuals and everybody has different needs. And then just finding that balance between, you know, how can I make you happy? How can I fulfill your needs of being here and make it worthwhile for you, but at the same time worthwhile for me? And then, okay, the other person, and then, yeah, it's an art to
Oh,
be
yes.
able to please everybody, inspire, motivate everybody, and get everybody to kind of work together as like a great team and, you know, optimizing their time there.
Yeah, and I feel like a lot of this goes back to your values, what your values are in like your client experience and your leadership, and kind of what your expectation of is people is kind of one, hiring the right people from the start that like actually match those
From
values.
the start, yeah, never
Yeah.
hire on like when you're feeling desperate or when you're feeling overwhelmed or when you're just like not in the right frame of mind. And I feel like a lot of my mistakes that I've made when I hired somebody and it turned out poorly was when I was in those states.
I had a mentor tell me, she was a CFO for a bunch of med spas in the States, and she said, fire quickly, hire slowly.
Exactly.
So even if we're desperate, now
Never.
we hire really slowly. We have a 4-interview process. We go phone interview, Zoom interview. The phone one is 5 minutes. Do you sound nice when you talk? Do you talk with proper sentences? And because you're going to be on the phone a lot or talking to clients. And then a Zoom one. Do you show up on time for your second time? Just meet and greet. Like, did you put yourself together? The third one we do is in person. So with the manager, I'll usually pop in as well or be there for part of it. And then we even have a fourth one, which is a working interview. When you meet everybody else, do they have a good impression of you? Because sometimes you don't see it if you're like really gung-ho, because you're like, oh, I really love that they have this experience. Like, I want to hire them. But sometimes when someone's not so emotionally invested, they can pick up on little nuances really quickly on first impression. And then 2, do they mesh with the culture?
Exactly.
Do they mesh with the other people there? And kind of when you throw them in that environment, I find it's really interesting. In terms of reception, I will throw people after you've watched me for an hour, answer the phone, talk to patients. Really, like, we're mostly female based and mostly, I don't know, let's say 20 to 50 years old. You're in that category too. If you can't talk to other women that are just like you, you know, then maybe it may not be the good fit. So I will just say, okay, the phone rang. It's your turn to pick up the phone. You've watched me for an hour. It's not hard to say, hi, you know, Caviar Skin Clinic, how can we help you? You've heard me say it 20 times. So I will put them on the spot to just see if can they at least like answer the phone positively and
Or
nicely.
work under pressure,
Yeah,
right?
because that's the first thing. If you're the first person people see when they walk in and the last impression when they leave. So it needs to be a good one. So that was one of the things that I got out of her training, because I have hired people quickly where I didn't necessarily always do the full due diligence. So now, you know, we call the references, we make sure. We even get a criminal record check.
Really?
It's easy for them to do online. And we just do that as a like, are you dedicated to this position? Because we do invest in you and you get a lot out of working here. And we want you to be here for a long time. So I find it also increases longevity because they've earned it.
Yeah.
It's not just like, okay, I hired you out of desperation. They know it. They're not, you know, you've hired them within 2 days of talking to them. They know like they are kind of in that power position in that way that you need them. But I find if you take the time to kind of peel the layers of the onion and get to know them a little bit better over those 4 stages. Like, did they show up every time on time? Did they show up every time friendly, good demeanor? Do they sound nice when they're speaking properly? And then did they put themselves together and hold themselves together well? Is their message consistent in all those 4 interactions?
That's great that you really are you set the standard.
Yeah. It didn't
You
come
know,
naturally. It
it's
took a
not like,
course.
it's not high standards.
No.
It's common sense standard, you know. But then I feel sometimes when you're hiring based off of desperation and you're like, I just need to fill the spot, I just need to get whatever, you know, like then you lower your standards.
Oh, 100%.
Right? And like this is standards, right?
Yeah.
Like this is the minimum.
Yeah.
So I think it's great that you hold to that.
Yeah, my poor office manager, I mean, she works so hard and I'm so grateful for her. But, you know, it is a lot of work on the admin team as well, because, you know, they have to take their time and hire someone, and they have to be available for those 4 points of contact. But it's worth it in the end. They have so much respect for the management team when it's done this way, because they've had 4 points of like them as an authority.
Yeah, and you know
So
that they're not
listen.
wasting their time, right?
Yes.
It's not like, okay, what's the point? I'm going to work with this person for a month, 2 months, and they're going to be gone, and then there's going to be a new face in here, and then I've got to do that all over again with them. Yeah, because it's like, it not just affects you, but it affects your whole team, right? To have people coming and going all the time, it really changes like the culture and the...
Totally.
in the
It can be, there can
workspace.
be one bad apple. I think we've all worked in jobs
Yeah.
where there was one Nancy, quote unquote, or Debbie, and they would just make the whole energy just like you wanted to have fun at work. Like, we can get our shit done, we can get it done efficiently, and we can have fun when we're done our work.
Totally.
But there'd
even
always
when
be
you
one.
are at work together, you can still have fun.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah.
But then there's professionalism along with it.
Yeah.
But I feel like when you got the right group there, it just all flows really nicely. And that's the goal, I think, you know, when you have a business, is like you get to the point where everybody is like amazing and you're having fun and you look forward to going to work and you love what you're doing. Like,
Yeah, that's the goal.
That's
I
the
think
goal.
for every employee or contractor working somewhere, that's the goal. And for every business owner, that's kind of usually the goal that they want to embody, because you go to work too. So you want to hire people that mesh with that culture and everything. And so, okay, it's you and your sister. You've hired receptionists. At what point did you hire more stylists or other service? Or have you ever branched into other services within?
Yeah, we had like an esthetician in there. And then trying to figure out like what works. Is it the chair rental route that works, or is it the commission stylist that works, or is it a hybrid? So that takes many years to kind of play around with to figure out what works. Yeah, so there's been a lot of coming and going and changing when you spread it out for over so many years.
If there was one thing that you wish you knew when you before you opened a business, what would it be? Like, what would you tell your younger self now, if you could go back and give like some insight?
Have a very strong vision and goal of where you want to go. I know sometimes when you just want to just start a business, you just want to just go for it and see where it goes, but then it can also take you like a lot longer to get to where, you know, eventually like what you want to be. Right? I don't know if that makes sense.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, because I kind of just dove into doing that. And like I said, back then I had more flexibility in being able to make mistakes and learning from your mistakes. And no matter what, how many years into, you're always going to still make mistakes and you're always still going to learn from your mistakes. But my younger self, I would have probably made a lot less mistakes and paid a less price for it if I had a stronger vision for it. I'm definitely more mature too, because I was quite young and not as mature.
Yeah. And okay, so you said employees are sometimes a difficulty. So what's a difficulty that you've had with an employee, and then how did you overcome that? Because anybody that wants to grow their business or start a business is going to at some point need employees to work with the company. So what is the kind of situation that maybe didn't go the way you thought it would? And then how did you adjust and adopt to prevent that from happening?
I mostly look at the person's personality. You know, I feel skill set you can always teach. You cannot teach personality. You can't teach like their heart, you know, like, so if someone has like a really good heart and has a really great personality and has like a great team value to them, that counts way more to me than seeing their skill set. So I feel if there's potential in them to be a great stylist and they have like all the other really super important part, I would hire them for that because I can always teach them the skill. So now when I interview people or when I look for people, it's more of that.
Yeah, more about personality and kind of getting to know, because yeah, at the end of the day, you will always fall back to your personality. That's where you've been, how you've been, who you've been for, so many years of your life. And skills are teachable if they're willing to learn.
Yeah, but that's part of their personality, right? Yeah. Like when you're hiring them, like, do you have passion? Do you have commitment? Are you willing to work hard? Do you have good work ethics? Do you like care for other people? Are you empathetic? Are you sincere? Are you genuine? Like all of that stuff is so much more important than do they have the skill.
Yeah, so hiring for personality. And then where would you bring in like the sales aspect? Obviously with a business, there needs to be sales generated, and that also kept in mind. Is that something that you train for, or do you kind of hire specifically for a few different things, like a stylist that is a little bit more savvy in the sales area, or a little bit more, I don't want to say aggressive, but just has that more ability to put themselves out there in sales, or just more someone that is willing to learn the skill to be really good because that you can market her?
I always encourage like my stylist or my team to just educate your clients, right? What do they need? What else can they use to like, and they know this themselves anyways, how it can help them, and that'll make their hair better, right? Yeah. So it's just part of the whole service and their journey there in that session when they're with us. And so we just like give out our advice, and if they feel like, that makes sense, we can definitely use something like that, then they just purchase it. But not necessarily too much of like selling. I guess it's more knowledge and giving them the knowledge of what we think would be helpful for them, and then it's up to them if they feel like they need to get that or not, because our approach is from caring, right? Like this is, I think, what would really help you out here.
Like hair health first, and we'll get you to where you need to go to the limit we can get you there.
And then everybody has different hair texture and like what would be best for you and for these reasons, blah 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 blah. And then just that itself, if the person wants to purchase, cool. If they don't, because for whatever reason, that's totally fine too. So we're not really pushy in sales.
But I think when you come from an educational standpoint, it's just one kind of avenue to sales that isn't so in your face. Like everyone knows that like car sales guy or like the stockbroker, where it's like very pushy and very, okay, let's get this done. And it's kind of when you come more from education, you just give them the best possible choices, and it's up to them whether they'd like to take it or not.
Exactly.
Yeah. And I feel like now with consumers being more knowledgeable, they have more knowledge these days with Instagram, ChatGPT. They can search anything and everything and tell you more almost.
They tell me more. I'm telling you, my best teachers are my clients.
Yeah. Okay, what's your biggest pet peeve with clients that like is a kind of theme that happens, or what they ask you for where you're just like, okay, impossible, or like what's the biggest pet peeve you've experienced?
Probably I've boxed out my hair black like 5 times, and now I really want to like go super blonde, and I hate the in-between stages, and I just want to go from like black to platinum in like a one go. It's like, girl, no. That's not gonna happen. And then I have to explain why, and they don't like to hear what I have to say, so then I have to try to say it in another version of what I originally said. That's probably my biggest pet peeve.
Okay, and why is it so bad? Is it because black dye is harder, or is it because the blonde dye is more brittle, like for the hair?
Well, in order to go platinum blonde, you need to strip out all of the pigment that's in the hair, right? So you have natural virgin hair. There's lots of layers of pigment, but it's easier to take out. Whereas when they dyed it, so you have your own natural pigment, and then on top of that, they have all the dye pigments.
Random dyes.
And then more random dye pigments, and then you got to remove all of that, and then to take it out at a healthy state, it's impossible. To get it to like white.
I feel like that's the common thing from from winter to spring, people want to go from dark to blonde. And then from once it hits fall, people want to go from blonde to dark. And there's this cycle where they want to do these aggressive kind of changes.
Yeah, that's
twice
probably
a year.
my biggest pet peeve is like the aggressive, like contrast between light and dark, dark and light.
Yeah.
Because that's very challenging. And like, as much as I say no, I still don't like to say no.
Yeah, of course.
You know, as much as it's easy for me to say no, I still don't like to say no. I like to say yes.
Totally. And it's hard. I mean, at the end of the day, you don't want somebody coming back either with like, I've heard horror stories where people are like, their hair is turning like almost orangish because of whatever pigments are underneath, or, you know, they have a blow dryer or heat and a chunk of hair is like falling off because they've overdone the heat.
That's no good.
I don't think you get a lot of that, because having worked with you for so long, I've gained so much knowledge and all the kind of health things, and I keep my flat iron max at a certain temperature, even though it goes higher.
Like,
I never go above.
Noya, lower down that damn temperature.
You know, I don't even have to tell you, and you know it's crazy. And you're like, are you backcombing your hair again?
Yeah.
Like, it's like I can't even get away with everything. It's crazy how you can see so much in hair.
Yeah.
And I mean, I feel like it's kind of similar to filler, I guess. You can see so much, even though sometimes people tell you no. Like, it's all dissolved. And I'm like, it's definitely not. I can see it. I know theoretically it should be all dissolved. But sometimes things last longer, and you can see it or feel it. And so, but it's funny. I can't get away with anything with my hair with you. But I'm definitely healthier. No more, you know, high heat
amazing.
or back combing and all that.
I can tell you've been doing your homework.
But that was a trend, you know, the side bang and then the like teasing here, like the little poof. It was like the Hilary Duff era. Even
which
we would
is
like
great,
clip
which
it.
was super great.
Oh my God, the hair trends.
But damn, I hated that phase.
Yeah. Have you ever used like technologies? I remember one time, this actually just came to mind. My mom went to the Bay and they had like a hair salon in the mall, but you could take a photo and it would put different hairstyles and haircuts on you.
You can do that now with
I guess
like
now
apps.
with an app. Okay, yeah. I'm so age shit now. I just feel like technology is moving too fast for me.
Yeah.
Yeah. It has been such a pleasure to have you on. We're going to finish up with a little quick fire.
Okay.
I'm just going to ask you some random questions that people might be interested in.
Okay.
Okay. What are your like healthy fitness habits that you do on a weekly basis?
For me, meditation. Like not necessarily meditating, but anything that kind of gets me into that wavelength of like feeling calm and in a meditative state, kind of. So even if it's just like, you know, going to like a hot yoga class, and that'd be part of my fitness. But even if I end up just going in there and just like laying down in the heat and just kind of being in this like meditative state is really important to me. I think I need more of that in my life, and I do that as often as I can. And just doing things that I enjoy on my non-working times.
Mm-hmm. Okay, and then how many cups of coffee did you drink yesterday?
I like to drink about 1.5 cups.
Okay, nice. Not bad. Not
Yeah,
bad.
yeah.
And then what did you eat yesterday? Typical eating day.
I don't typically like to eat until around 2 p.m. or so. Mm-hmm. So I think I had like a sandwich.
Yeah.
And then later on in the evening, I made some hot pot for my kids and I. Yeah, it'd just be random stuff. I just like to have like a variety of menus, you know, so we don't get bored of anything.
I loved having you here, and I'm so glad you made the time. And it's been really nice to kind of get a deeper dive into the hair industry and kind of your story.
Thank you so much for having me
pleasure.
here. And I love this. I love this connection that we're having.
Me too.
Yeah.
We didn't get too much time to talk about your diamond industry, but we'll have to save that for another one. I'm also still curious, too. So we'll have to touch base on that.
Yes.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you so much.